for this week's one-on-one, I'm joined now in studio by Mireille Goyer. She's a local pilot and an advocate for women in the aviation industry. And we're going to be discussing an initiative that she's putting together for International Women's Day, which takes place on March 8th. But first, I want to get a little bit of history. So thank you very much for joining us in studio today.
Thank you, Deneka.
So can you tell me what you did last year to try and encourage women to get involved with aviation?
Well, last year was the centennial of the first woman to ever get a pilot license. Her name was Raymonde de la Roche, and she was in France. Actually, the first 6 women pilots to earn a license were in France. And to celebrate that centennial, I decided the best way to do that was to actually introduce a record number of girls and women.
And so what did you do to try and encourage women to come out and get that experience and introduction into flying?
Actually, getting women to come out and fly is not as much of a challenge as it's normally thought to be. Women do want to fly, are interested in flying, and so just to get the word out is all it took. In Rampton, in December of all month for the Seattle area, we just called out, and almost 200 of them showed up in just one day to fly, and excited and willing. And then when we did another one on New Year's Eve, then they were fighting for the space. We had less aircraft, so we could not accommodate as many flights. So a lot of them had to be actually turned down. Same thing happened in Oshawa. Oshawa on the last weekend prior to Christmas Day, so the last shopping weekend, 118 women girls and women showed up at the airport to fly. So women and girls and women are interested in flying and do want to fly.
And so overall, throughout the entire year, roughly how many women did you introduce to flying?
We introduced over 1,600 girls and women to aviation in 29 countries on 4 continents.
Wow. So you must have had other women pilots around the world helping you with this?
That's correct. And also men pilot.
Oh, okay. Bringing up
we
women
had
as
both,
well.
yes, because there's plenty of men. Some of them are not as thrilled to have us there, but that's a minority. The vast majority of men are very willing to have us around and are more than willing to take us up and introduce us to flying.
And I was lucky enough to actually be a part of that, and Mireille took me up flying too, and it was really a great experience. So why don't we talk a bit about what you're doing this year? What are you doing during the week of International Women's Day?
Well, because of what we saw and the excitement and everything, the fact is, to this day, we still have about 6% of the pilot population as women. That's about it. And that's been that way for decades. So it's not just something that happens. It's like we got to 6% and nothing happened then. But if you look at what's going on in the aviation industry, although there is no evil doing, there is actually no attempt to get women to fly. Meaning they can come and fly if they want to, but there is no invitation to women to come to fly. And for both men and women, coming to an airport is very intimidating. If you're not invited or you don't know somebody there, you're probably not going to make that move. So for International Women's Day, which happens to be the 100th anniversary of that, we're going to basically renew the call for pilots to take girls and women flying. This time we're going to do it a little bit different. We'd like the entire aviation industry to be part of this. Okay. And so we invited flight school to give deep discounts to girls and women during that week and invite them to fly. Anything, museum, flight school. We have technical schools also that address aviation, that are always thinking, how do we get more women? Well, open your door and show them what it looks like. Okay. We'd love to have airlines also show, what it's like to be a woman working in male-dominated field. I'm not saying, fields that are obviously well liked by women, but those that are a little like pilots or mechanics or things like that. Mm-hmm. We'd like them to maybe do an open door or a day at work program during that week.
Okay, so if someone is watching this and they're involved with the aviation industry, they work somewhere within the aviation industry, or anything that has to do with flying, like you mentioned, aviation museums or anything like that, and they're thinking, well, maybe they can get involved somehow. How can they get a hold of you to try and arrange something?
Well, the easiest way is to go to the website that we created. This is going to be an annual event. It's not going to be just a one-time event.
Okay.
And the website is womenofaviationweek.org.
Okay.
And there they can contact me, and we have a list of all events that are going to go on in the aviation industry during that week. We're also going to list any flight school that is perceived as women-friendly.
Okay, so some free advertising.
That's right. They will get free advertising as long as they do something significant to try to attract women and girls and women during that week.
And once again, it's an international initiative?
It is an international initiative, and what is different also this time is we are getting sponsors involved. In some countries, in some countries during International Women's Day,
Great.
it is the tradition for men to offer gifts to women.
Right.
So in Western countries, we celebrate women for being lovers in February, and we celebrate them for being mothers in May.
Right.
But there is nothing to celebrate them for being productive member of society, except for International Women's Day.
Okay.
But we don't celebrate it to the level that they do. So this year we're going to ask sponsors to basically give gifts to the pilots and the women passengers that comes along. And we already have some sponsors, and we'd like to get more people doing that.
Okay, and once again, they can visit your website if people are interested in getting involved in sponsoring the initiative.
That's correct.
Well, thank you very much for coming into studio and speaking with us for this week's show, and hopefully people will visit Mireille's website and get involved with this initiative to introduce women to flying.